Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this wide leg Ankara pants that I'm wearing, and if that's something that you would like to see, definitely keep watching. It promises to be another fun and detailed tutorial, and if you haven't seen the first part of this tutorial, it's the part where I show you how to draft your trouser pattern. You want to check it out, so I've put a link in the description bar as well as in the iCards above, so do check it out, and also don't forget to subscribe. Thank you and enjoy the video. To make your wide leg pants, you need the following items. You need your trouser pattern, and if you don't know how to draft your trouser pattern, you want to check out the link I've put in the description bar where I show you how to do that. You'd also need a good pair of fabric scissors. You need your measuring tape. You'd also need a tailor's chalk or your fabric marker. You need some pins. You'd also need a magnet or pin cushion. I'm going with a magnet because it just works well for me. And of course you need some fabric. I've got about 2 years of Ankara hair and it's going to be just fine for me. Start off by folding a section of your fabric over so that you folded it into two and that you have just enough to cut out your back piece with the allowance needed. You want to make sure that your fabric is folded so that the wrong side is facing you, because you don't want to make markings on the right side of your fabric. Pin the back pattern onto the folded fabric as shown, making sure that it is well pinned and well placed onto the fabric before pinning. After pinning the pattern down to the fabric, mark out the sewing allowances all around. So for me, I went with sewing allowance of 1 inch at the out seam, which is the side seam area, and then 1 inch at the hem, half an inch at the inseam, half an inch at the crotch area, and half an inch at the top, which is where the waistline is. After carefully and thoroughly marking out the allowances, go ahead and cut along the marked lines as shown. After cutting the back piece, keep the back piece aside and then get ready to cut the front piece. To cut the front piece, again you want to fold what's left of your fabric. However, you don't want to fold the whole lot. You just want to fold a little bit over so that it can take the pattern, and then you want to pin the front piece pattern onto the folded fabric, making sure that the wrong side of the fabric is facing you. Afterwards, go ahead and pin it all the way through, and then mark out the allowances of 1 inch at the out seam, half an inch at the top, half an inch at the crotch, half an inch at the inseam, and then 1 inch at the hem. After marking out all the allowances, go ahead and cut it as shown. Be sure to keep whatever fabric you have left, as you'll need some fabric for the band. So for me, this is all I have left, and I've decided to keep it for the band because I'll need it later. While cutting along the crotch, you'll notice that you have a small piece of fabric that you just cut out from the crotch. You don't want to throw that away. However, what you want to do is you want to divide that small piece into two so that you can use it for the fly. After dividing the cutout piece from the crotch into two, keep one of the pieces safe as you'll be needing it for the fly later on. Next, go ahead and indicate the dart position. So for me, I like to indicate the dart position by snipping my dart leg area. So I've gone ahead to make snips, as you can see, and then I'll go ahead and make markings so that I know where exactly the dart should stop. So what I do is I pierce my fabric with my pin and then make a marking with my fabric marker or your tailor's chalk so that you can know where the dart should stop. After doing that, I make sure that I hold the crotch in place so that it doesn't move, and then I unpin my pattern from my fabric. So the next thing to do is to sew my dart in place, and I basically just do that by holding the snipped area together and sewing diagonally so that till I get to, the point where the dart is supposed to stop. After sewing the dart, this is what it looks like. The next thing to do is to sew the crotch area. And to do this, I like to mark 9 inches from the waist along the crotch area and then sew the rest. So from the top, I mark 9 inches and then I go ahead and pin the 2 pieces of fabric together so that they don't move. And then I mark half an inch from the 9-inch points all the way to the end of the crotch and sew along my markings. After sewing the front crotch area, this is what it looks like, and as you can see, when I unpin it, I have an opening at the top, and this opening is basically meant for the zipper. So my zipper is going to be placed here, and as you can see, I have the crotch area sewn at the bottom. So the next thing to do is to find out how we're going to insert our zipper. Because the cutout piece is longer than the zipper area, what we want to do is we want to reduce it. So because we left 9 inches for the zipper area or the zipper allowance, I've gone ahead to measure 10 inches on the fly piece, and I'm going ahead to shape it by cutting a curve as shown. Starting at the waist, pin the fly to the left side of the front piece, making sure the right side of the fly and the right side of the fabric are facing each other. Then you want to go ahead and mark out the sewing allowance of half an inch and sew on that sewing allowance from the top to the end of the fly as shown. After sewing the fly to the left side of the front piece, this is what it looks like. So the next thing to do is to top stitch the fly in place. After top stitching the fly, this is what it looks like. So the next thing to do is to fix the zipper. Starting at the point where the fly is joined to the trouser, mark out half an inch towards the fly area. You want to do this all through the length of the fly, starting at the waist to where the fly ends as shown. Slide the zipper open and then pin the left side of the zipper onto the allowance that we've just marked. You want to make sure that the right side of the zipper is facing the right side of the fabric. So that means the zipper is face down on the fabric. You also want to make sure that the stopper on the zipper starts about half an inch below the waistline. After pinning the zipper to the fly, go ahead and sew it in place. If you like a more detailed tutorial on how to sew your zipper, I've got a video on that. I'm going to put the link in the description bar below as well as in the iCard so that you can refer to the video if you need to. On the second side of the trousers, mark out the sewing allowance of half an inch all through and then go ahead and fix the zipper into place as shown. Be sure to check that your zipper is well aligned while pinning into place and before sewing. After sewing the zipper, this is what it should look like. Go ahead and slide the zipper close, and then this is what you should have. Arrange the fly and pin it into place. Afterwards, starting at the edge of the fly, mark 1/4 inwards as shown, making sure you mark this all through the length of the fly. Draw in a curve at the end of the fly where the zipper ends as shown. Afterwards, sew along the marked lines. At the end of the day, I ended up sewing twice because I just wanted it to be a bit more visible. However, I did sew on the same lines, so they're not separated stitches. Cut off the excess zipper if you have any, and then go ahead and bind the end of the zipper. So basically, to bind the end of the zipper, you just need a small piece of fabric, and then you basically just want to pipe this kind of onto the end of the zipper, and this is basically so that it can look neat. Because my fabric was too long, I went ahead to shorten it at the sides, and then I went ahead to sew it onto the end of the zipper so that it looks tidy, and all I have to do is just whip the edges, the outer edges. After binding the edge of the zipper, this is what it looks like, and our front piece is literally done. So now moving on to the back piece, you want to go ahead and unpin the back piece, and then you want to go ahead and sew your darts into place. So again, I'm indicating my dart points, and I'm going ahead to sew the darts into place. After sewing the dart, this is what it looks like. So the next thing to do is to sew the crotch area together, and this time, unlike the front piece, we will not be leaving any space. So from the top, you want to go ahead and mark out the sewing allowance of 1/2 inch all through the crotch area as shown, and then you want to go ahead and sew along the marked lines like so. After sewing the crotch area on the back piece, go ahead and open up the back piece, and as you can see, the crotch area has been sewn all the way to the crotch. So the next thing to do is to join the side of the back piece to the front piece, and we're going to do that in a minute. Place the front piece on the back piece so that the right sides of both fabric are facing each other, and then go ahead and pin the sides all the way down. At this point, it's important that I mention that the best way to get neatly sewn trousers is to overlock all the edges of your trouser pieces even before sewing. So for me, there was no power supply at the time of filming this video, so I basically could not do all of that. So guys, please bear with me, but ideally you should overlock all the edges of your trouser pieces before putting them together. Mark out the sewing allowance of 1 inch and then sew along the marks. You want to repeat this for the other side so that you join both the outseams to each other and your trouser is nearly ready. Hem the pants by folding in 1/2 inch and then 1 inch. Pin this into place and then go ahead and sew. After sewing the hem, this is what it should look like. So the next thing to do is to join the inseam of the pants, and you basically want to do that by pinning the crotch together, making sure you open up the seams at the crotch, and then you want to pin from the crotch towards the hem. Be sure to pin both sides together. Afterwards, mark out your sewing allowance of 1/2 inch all the way, and then go ahead and sew on these markings. After sewing the inseam, this is what it looks like. So at this point, your pants are nearly ready, and the next thing to do is to put the band in place. At this point, I'm just measuring the waist on the pants to make sure that it is accurate, and my waist is 30 inches. Meanwhile, the waist measurement I took off the pants is also 30 inches, which means that we are fine. So I find out that a lot of people don't know where their actual waist is, or think that this is high waist because it is higher up. However, your waist is actually the smallest part of your body. It's supposed to be the smallest part of your body. So if you would like to check out the video that I made on how to take proper body measurements, do check it out. I've put a link in the description bar as well as in the iCards above, so you can check it out to know where your actual waist is. For the band, you need to cut out a strip of fabric that is 2 inches longer than your actual waist measurement. So for me, because my waist measurement is 30 inches, I'll be cutting out a strip of fabric that is 32 inches wide, and then the height or the length of my fabric will be about 3.5 inches, because I don't want my band too thick or too thin. So depending on what you want for your band, then you can change that. If you want a wide band, then you can go up to about 5 inches. Afterwards, fold the strip of fabric into two and sew the edges as shown. After sewing the edges, turn them inside out and push out the corners. So the next thing to do is to sew the band to the inside of the pants. Pin the band to the trouser at the waist, making sure that the edge of the band aligns with the edge of the fly as shown. You want to pin the band all through the waist circumference, and because the band was cut to be bigger or longer rather than the waist, you would have some excess on the band as shown. The band should only be about 1 inch longer than the actual waist. However, in my case, I miscalculated, so I ended up with a band that was about 3 inches longer. I cut off the excess and stitched it closed and then turned it inside out. Afterwards, I went ahead to sew the band to the inside of the trouser, and this is what it looks like. So the next thing to do is to fold the band over and top stitch the band close as shown. After top stitching the band closed, this is what it should look like. Go ahead and give your trousers a good trim and a good iron, and then go ahead and fix the hook and eye. So I used the hand needle to put my hook and eye onto my trousers, and this is what it looks like. Alright guys, so we've come to the very end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was worth your while. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to leave your comments, suggestions and feedback below. And also don't forget to follow me on social media if you haven't. Thank you and see you in my next video. Bye!